Hey guys, and welcome back to Alex's Flying Club. Right now I am in the quite famous Microsoft FSX PMDG add-on, the 737 NGX. And this is an add-on which you may or may not have seen, but there are a lot of YouTube videos all about this add-on. It's a great aircraft. I think it kind of revolutionized the flight sim community and set the bar really high for especially these airliners. And there's been several really high quality add-ons that have come after this that have really kind of been at the same level of detail, the same level of systems modeling, and they're pretty much a simulation apart from FSX that adds on to FSX, uses it as a base, but really takes it to a much deeper level. And among those are the Majestic Dash 8, and PMDG released another aircraft after this one, the 777. And many of you have probably already heard of these aircraft and have seen them, if not flown them, in your simulator. But I thought I'd throw that out there for those that have not. Now, I bought this add-on several months ago. Haven't had a chance to really get into it, but in the past maybe 3 weeks ago, I think, I did the tutorial for this, the first tutorial for this aircraft, and I kind of got a good idea of, you know, the basics of flying it. And I can do limited flight. I can't start it from cold and dark. I did start the aircraft with the engines running already, because that's what the first tutorial specifies. But here I'm running through the pre-taxi procedures, setting elevator trim. I showed a few seconds earlier how I created the flight plan and made sure that it was to my liking. And I'm not going to go in depth into how to do this step by step, because there are a lot of good YouTube videos out there that do that. If you just search for PMDG 737 NGX tutorial or cold and dark, you'll see a lot of really nice videos about how to do everything with this plane. So I'm not going to do a video that duplicates that information. But since I really do like this add-on, I thought I would I film one of my flights and yeah, just kind of do a little honorary video for this great add-on. Now, in the course of this flight, I'm going to talk about some of my plans. I've recently decided to make some changes to how I'm going to approach my flight simulation hobby. Not that, you know, this particularly matters or it's of any importance to anybody but myself, but I would like to just, yeah, why not? Just share how I'm getting along in the hobby. And yeah, maybe it'll give you some ideas, some things to think about. So I'll do that during the course of this flight. And as we're here getting ready to come up to the runway, we're taxiing there. I am not flying on VATSIM because I have a handful with just figuring out the systems of this airplane. So what's really been driving my recent thoughts and changes to my hobby is I really want to focus on one aircraft and learn it in depth, rather than just kind of switching back and forth between different kinds of aircraft as I've been doing. So that also means that I am going to be focusing, I've decided, on civilian flying. Now, I've been flying with combat flight simulators, namely Aces High, since about 2012 recently. Well, I've actually been flying them since I was quite young, when I was like 12 years old in the early 2000s and 90s. Around that time, I kind of dabbled in combat flight sims just because I was growing up and I was interested in the combat aircraft. But this year, I discovered Microsoft Flight Simulator X, and although I had known about it, I didn't really understand it fully until I started watching YouTube videos and the kind of add-ons available and the kind of community surrounding these civilian flight simulators that I was exposed to. And I was exposed to it through YouTube, as I mentioned, but also through a great magazine called PC Pilot. Now, I've been flying with FSX, if you've been watching my videos, for almost a year now, and the more I fly with FSX, the less I noticed that I was flying in combat flight sims like Aces High. That's not to say that, you know, they're good, and there's an awesome community of people that fly in those simulators, and I think it's a really cool aspect of the hobby. But I realize that I'm more interested in the actual aviation aspect, the flying, learning the proper procedures, learning about different airlines, different types of aircraft, and not necessarily about the weapons systems and air combat maneuvers. Although I do believe that ACM is useful for flying. I think it would make you a better pilot if you understand the limits of your aircraft at the most kind of extreme situations. Now, with that, I decided that I'm going to stop playing Aces High because it is a subscription-based game. You pay a monthly fee of $15, and it was kind of a bummer to make this decision because I really do like my squadron, the VF-17 Jolly Rogers, and it's a great group of guys, and I've really enjoyed flying with them, and there's some great people there. They taught me how to play the game and also how to fly within the game and do all the air combat maneuvers, and I really enjoyed the special events that we took part in. But since I don't really play combat flight sims that much anymore, and I just decided it would be better if I didn't pay the monthly fee and just focused in on what I was really interested in, because I'm also trying to spend less time on the hobby and focus more on real life things, and it's kind of a big distraction for me because I do love it so much, flying these aircraft. And yeah, so I've canceled my subscription to Aces High, and I've also decided on an aircraft I want to focus on. Now, I mentioned in my previous video that it was going to be the Beechcraft 18 was one of my areas of focus, but then I was still thinking I was going to fly the 737 and also the Corsair in the combat flight sim, and I want to kind of pick an aircraft that really has the best of everything that I like about aviation, so that I can focus on that. And I thought it might be the 737, and I actually did end up buying a video package by this company called Angle of Attack Media that put out especially for the PMDG 737 NGX about the aircraft, about learning the systems, about learning everything a simulator pilot would want to know, most things that they would want to know to fly this aircraft and have a good understanding of it. Now, that's kind of a shame because I've decided that the 737 is an awesome aircraft, but it's not the one I want to focus on. I've really decided to focus on the Beechcraft 1900, which I have flown quite a bit because it was the aircraft that I started out with in Virtual United Airlines, and I was working my way up to the 737. But as I've been doing flights in the NGX, I realized that I like the kind of smaller plane feel of the Beechcraft 1900, and it's kind of the spiritual successor, if you will, of the Twin Beech, of the Beechcraft 18. It's also the latest regional airliner of the Beechcraft company, and even though it's not in production right now, it was the latest, and I believe the third. There was another one, a Model 99, I believe, that Beechcraft had that succeeded the Model 18. And then there was the Beechcraft 1900, which started being produced in the early 80s and was produced up until 2002, I believe. And the reason I like the aircraft, I mentioned already, it's a small aircraft, it's more nimble. The systems are a little bit simpler, which means I won't have to devote as much time to learning the ins and outs of how the aircraft works. And this PMDG add-on that I'm flying in right now it's quite a study simulation. There's so much depth to it, and there's so many things that you can do, and it kind of almost overwhelms the flying aspect for me. When I'm in the PMDG, my instinct is to put it on autopilot, and kind of doesn't really feel for me like inviting aircraft to hand fly. That's just a personal preference. There are many people who hand fly the 737 and really do enjoy it. And I'll be making a video after this one with the 1900. I'm currently flying in the Premier Aircraft Design freeware version of the Beechcraft, Beech 1900, and I'll eventually be getting the Carenado Payware B1900D. It's a very nice add-on. It's gotten good reviews. The cockpit looks fantastic, as with most Carenado aircraft. And it's not really a study simulation, and that's something that really bothered me about Carenado's aircraft before. I got their Cessna 185 Bush aircraft, and I was really happy with that one. But then I ended up buying the Beechcraft Baron, and I was quite upset that, well, actually, let me just kind of stop here for a second and just mention, because I'm recording the narration after the fact, and I'm kind of pointing with my cursor at things in this video to show you about the NGX. And those close-up shots, I just wanted to show you the level of detail that went into the cockpit view, and I'm sure many of you have already seen that in other videos, but it's just really cool to be able to see it on my computer and actually be flying this aircraft and see that time and effort put in by PMDG. So back to Carenado. I think that, yeah, so then I bought the Baron for Carenado, and I was kind of surprised because they did not include almost any kind of documentation that explained the systems of the aircraft, that explained how to fly it. It was just really bare bones as far as documentation goes, and that really upset me at first. And then I realized that, you know, that's not what Carenado does. There are different kinds of simulation that you can get involved in. You can really want to study aircraft and get to know every nut and bolt in an aircraft, and that's what PMDG and companies like Majestic with their Dash 8 do best. But then a company like Carenado caters to people that want a more casual but still fairly realistic flight simulation experience. And I think I fall more in that camp because I want to learn about these aircraft, but I want to do it at a fairly leisurely pace. I want, you know, hobby to be more of a secondary thing in my life, and just something I can come back to. And if I want to get in an aircraft and do a quick flight without thinking too much about the proper procedures, I want to have that, you know, freedom, I guess. Again, personal preference, just the way that I'd like to fly. I'm not saying one way is better than another, but I thought I'd present this perspective. You do see a lot of pretty hardcore hobbyists that really take these aircraft seriously and end up learning them in almost as much detail as an airline pilot. Some of them are actually preparing to be airline pilots and have maybe already started flying. But there's also room for just somebody to be involved with Flight Simulator X or X-Plane and take it at a more leisurely pace. And here I was switching between views in the PMDG. You may have seen people use EasyDock, this add-on called EasyDock, to shift between views, but you don't necessarily have to have it. It looks nicer. When you switch views, it kind of maneuvers the camera from your current view to the next one in a very fluid way. But you can just use the default FSX views with this aircraft, and I've mapped a switch on my joystick. When I move the switch right, it goes forward in the list of views. When I move it left, it goes back. So I can get to the overhead panel and the center pedestal quite easily that way. And I've already talked my way through the climb and cruise portion of the flight. Now I began my descent. I'm not using any add-ons for scenery or for weather here, and you can see it still looks pretty nice with the sunset. At least I think so. With FSX, there's a whole nother world of getting involved in add-on scenery, and there's great programs that I've been reading about, like Orbex at fullterrain.com. They have a whole variety of awesome scenery packages, and you can spend probably hundreds of dollars, if not thousands, buying all their airports. And you know, I mean, if you're really into those regions, Australia, the Pacific Northwest in the United States, England, they have just amazing airports for those regions. And if you fly them often and quite exclusively, it's definitely, I think, worth the money. But again, there's so many technical things that come with FSX and optimization, making sure with all these add-ons that you're getting the performance that you need, because FSX is an older simulator, and it has some quirks that you need to work around. And personally, I don't really like fiddling with that stuff. I just want to get in and fly. So I don't install a lot of scenery, and I may in the future, but it's just not what makes it as fun for me. So here I'm doing a fully automated landing. This is what the first tutorial calls for. Once you're established in the glide slope, I just turned on Command B on the autopilot, which tells the plane that it's going to be landing on its own, pretty much. And that's a really cool feature of the NGX. I don't think pilots do this at all, or often, or at all in real life. Most of the time, if not all of the time, they're doing the approach with autopilot on, but then they turn it off right before the landing, and then they land manually. But for the purposes of the tutorial, and just to exhibit this cool feature, which is pretty rare in most aircraft that you'll fly in FSX that aren't airliners, I decided to do the automatic landing. And the NGX is quite a slippery aircraft, as they say in aviation. That means that it's very hard for it to lose speed. It's very sleek and aerodynamic, and it makes it a bit challenging on the descent and the approach to get down to the speeds that you need before landing. And I should mention where we flew from and where we're flying to. I always forget to do that. I was flying from Chicago O'Hare International Airport into Minneapolis St. Paul Airport, and those are the Twin Cities in the distance. This is a really cool approach to the runway. I wasn't really focusing in on it when I was trying to land, but I kind of like that lake and the cliff right before the runway. It's pretty cool.
Approaching minimums. 50, 30, 20, 10.
One of the mistakes I made earlier was forgetting to turn off the autopilot. After landing, and also forgetting to put my throttle to idle when I had my autopilot on. That way when you turn your autopilot off, your throttle goes back up if you don't have it at idle, and it makes it hard for the aircraft to stop before the end of the runway. So I make sure to take notes, after the first couple flights, just so I don't make the same mistake twice. And I would recommend, if you're getting into this aircraft and you're just starting to fly it, to use some excellent resources provided by I think an Australian virtual airline. I'll have a link in the description below, but they have some PDFs for the NGX, and they have a simplified checklist, a more detailed procedures list for all the stages of flight, and the procedures list follows, I think, the first tutorial. So a lot of the recommended settings that they give you in the first tutorial, they have it nicely laid out in a quick reference format, in a PDF form. And then they also have cockpit panels that are labeled with all the different instruments. It makes it a lot easier to follow these tutorials and to be able to start to understand the aircraft. So check out those PDFs. I don't remember the website off the top of my head, but I will definitely put a link down in the description below. So here I am parked at the gate. The first tutorial did cover the shutdown procedure, which is quite simple compared to the cold and dark startup. And so I do know how to do that, but I'm not going to go over it in complete detail in this video. So look for videos from me in the future with the Beechcraft 1900, the PAD version, and then later on the Carenado when it goes on sale, and I'll buy it hopefully over the holidays. And I know I keep saying in my previous videos I keep making all these plans and then I keep changing them. Well, that's just the way it goes for me. A lot of things to explore. I'm discovering a lot of things in this hobby and a lot of different aircraft. But I think I'm kind of getting an idea of the range of what's available out there by this point. And this channel for me is more about kind of sharing all these journeys that I go through in the hobby with you guys. And there are a lot of other channels that kind of take recommendations and flights, things like that, and really cater to the audience members. Of course I take your comments in mind, but primarily I'm just trying to have fun, and I just want to share all these flights with you guys, and hopefully give you ideas and have you guys bounce ideas off me. But primarily it's more about kind of my own take and my own direction that I want to take with this hobby. Okay, I skipped ahead a little bit. After I turned off the master battery, you can see we're in a cold and dark state. And I'm going to do a quick exterior shot of the aircraft. This is a fun flight. I will be flying this aircraft again in the future, maybe just kind of to take a break from the 1900 to get some variety. But it's not one that I really want to focus on as much. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys, in general, like the style and the focus of my videos. And if you do, I welcome you to subscribe and like and comment. I want to thank you guys again for watching. And let me know what you think of this video and what I was talking about in the video. I welcome your suggestions and comments and questions and things like that. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys again next time.